Infamously called the Butcher of Tehran, Ebrahim Raisi is no more. The Iranian president was killed in a chopper crash. Along with him, Iran's foreign minister, Hossein Amir Abdullahian, as well as the governor of East Azerbaijan province, have also not survived. After several hours of search and rescue efforts, the remains of a completely burnt helicopter and bodies of the deceased were found in the mountains of the northwestern Iran. Under the Iranian constitution, the country's first vice president, Mohammad Mukhber, has now been handed over the reins. Ebrahim Raisi was seen, remember, as a protege to Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and a potential successor for his position within the country's Shiite society. In 2019, both the US and the EU imposed sanctions on Raisi due to his alleged human rights record, particularly concerning the executions in 1988 and crackdowns on anti-government protesters in 2009 and 2019. Raisi, meanwhile, remained defiant when he was questioned about the 1988 executions that involved alleged sham retrials of political prisoners and others by what were called death commissions. In recent times, Raisi backed the massive 300 drone and missile assault on Israel in April this year. In fact, he has been vocal about his opposition to Israel. He endorsed Iran's enrichment of uranium, stood against women not wearing burqa, and supported the crackdown on dissenters after 22-year-old Mahsa Amini's custodial death. Tributes started pouring in from across the world as soon as news was confirmed. India will be observing a one-day state mourning on the 21st of May, that's tomorrow. But a lot of mixed reactions that have been coming in after this news was confirmed, after several long hours of rescue and search operations that eventually found the debris. Let's understand more of how this impacts the world. On the broadcast, I'm joined by Fateme Karim Khan. She's an Iranian journalist. I'm also joined by Chirayu Thakkar. He's a foreign policy expert. Good evening and welcome to both of you. Fateme, first of all, to you, condolences for the loss that your country is facing. But help us understand the general sentiment that prevails in your country today. Lots of mixed reactions that we're seeing on social media. Help us understand how the people are feeling today.
Well, Raisi was a hardliner, and lots of people doesn't really appreciate him as a head of administration. So there is a mixture of angriness, angry feelings, coming by some happy comments. Who are some people who are excited about the upcoming presidential election, which comes in about 50 days. And this is how it's going, things right now.
All right, let me go across to Chirayu Thakkar. Chirayu Thakkar, as soon as this news came in, there was lots of speculation and murmurs on how Israel could have been involved in this and how the United States would have supported this. What do you make of these speculations, really?
Shreya, good evening, and thank you for having me. Indeed, this is a major event in Middle East politics, especially given that what it is going between Israel and Iran these days, or between Israel and Iranian proxies. Of course, there are people who were wildly speculating about some foul play, but so far as the evidence that has emerged from all sides, apart from some really crazy speculation that is happening on Telegram or Twitter, we have not seen any early indication of any sort of foul play. The weather and the terrain through which they were going, they were really tricky. And it's an unfortunate accident that has happened, and it has left some huge political vacuum in Iran.
Hmm. Fateme, let me understand from you now what happens. The vice president has been handed over the reins, but now what's the process like? How does Iran now choose a successor to President Raisi?
Well, from today, about a month and a half, we have to have another presidential election. The vice president cannot come out as as a candidate, but there is too many people who are willing to who are willing to come out as a candidate, and we will have another presidential election, as I've said, in 50 days. And after that, we will have another president for the next four years. So things are not that much a chaos right now in Tehran. The deputy of foreign minister is now replacing him for the next 15 days, and we are expecting a new election, an upcoming election.
Fatema, it's interesting that you say there are many who would want to be the successor, and one of the sort of most likely successors that has been speculated has been the Supreme Leader's son, Mojtaba Khamenei. Apart from him, who do you think could actually stand up to the Supreme Leader's son in this bid to succeed President Raisi?
Actually, I don't see things as you are framing. We are not speaking about who is going to be next supreme leader in Iran. We are right now just speaking about who is going to be the next president. These things, these myths who are claiming that Raisi or Mojtaba Khamenei are those who were likely to replace the supreme leader are not based on real. These are just some crimes, and I cannot comment on that. Actually, I can comment about what is going on about for the next presidential election, and who are going to be the next candidate for the presidential election. But about replacing the supreme leader, I actually cannot comment on that.
Okay. Chirayu Thakkar, there's also, of course, a lot now and depends on how this really unfolds in the Middle East, how this challenge is taken up. How much of it would actually impact the groups that have been backed by Iran, and how much of that then would impact the wars that have been going on?
Um, Shreya, just building upon the previous question that you actually asked Fatima, I think there might be limitations in her case in spelling out certain details, but the fact is that it's the Guardian
Yes.
Council, if I'm not mistaken, that approves the candidate who can stand. So it's not like an open election process that anybody can file nomination. They have to secure prior approval. And even during Raisi's election, what we have seen that hundreds of candidates who wanted to file election, they were actually shunted out from the process, and 6 or 7 candidates were there, and I think eventually Raisi was elected unopposed. Now there was a period in not very long ago before Raisi, where Iran used to play good cop and bad cop. So on one hand, you had moderates who were trying to steer foreign policy; they were trying to negotiate the JCPOA, and on the other hand, you had elements like Qasim Soleimani, who used to lead the IRGC, and they used to be the bad cops who were guiding and monitoring Hezbollahs and Hamas and other proxies across the Middle East. But what happened with Raisi's ascension was two major events happened in Iranian politics. First, moderates actually lost any platform that they had. So now, with Raisi's rise, what we saw was hardliners taking a full control. And the signal that Iran was giving to the world is there would be no good cop, bad cop situation anymore. It would be clearly bad cops. We would have a certain strong foreign policy, and everybody has to follow that. And remember, there was this infamous Javed Zarif tape where he said, I'm just the executioner of the foreign policy. I do not make foreign policy. So, foreign policy was actually, and even prior to that, of course, there was some give and take, but foreign policy was always dictated by the supreme leader. But now, what we were seeing that hardliners had full control over that. And second, Raisi's ascension was seen as a signal that he would now at some point replace the supreme leader. That was actually the consensus for, especially between analysts who were watching Middle East quite closely and who understand Iran inside out. And on both those fronts, I think only on the one front there is a question, that is who would be the likely successor. But so far as the hardline policy is concerned, I think much is
Hmm.
not going to change. I have watched developments over the past 24 years, and the general consensus among experts is that this is not going to change the course of foreign policy in the Middle East or in the wider region so far as Iran's role is concerned.
Hmm. Okay, Fatima, in this unfortunate incident, you've also lost your country's foreign minister. How much of that would have an impact on, the course now that the country takes? We had our own external affairs minister talk this evening about how the foreign minister as well as President Raisi were instrumental in the Chabahar port deal that happened between India and Iran. So clearly an important man that has been lost there as well.
Yes, already Mr. Ali Bagheri Kani replaced him. He was his deputy Ali Bagheri Kani, and he is much more harder than the late Amir Abdullahian about Western countries. But I don't think anything will going to change in a near future regarding Iran foreign policy, especially regarding to India. We have a long-term relationship. We have we have lots of trade agreements. Both countries have lots of trade agreements, and I don't think replacing the head of administration or the head of government, the head of foreign ministry, or these kind of changes. I don't think that they can change anything regarding of Iran foreign policy, not in the regime, not outside the regime.
Hmm. Chirayu, do you see any change or any transition, any transformation happening in the India-Iran relationship here on? We've had a mixed relationship with Iran. It's now, of course, strengthening. We've got the all-important Chabahar port deal, which has been agreed upon. But do you see that transitioning any time with a different person at helm?
I
I don't
think
think so. I think between Iran and India is always lots of other countries, China, the US, uh, American sanctions, EU sanctions against Iran. So there is lots of other things that we have to be concerned about regarding Iran-India relationship. But I don't see anything going to change because the late Amir Abdullahian, because the replacement, because the upcoming election and things like that. Iran foreign policy has a big picture, and it's going through it's going to be the same as it was in uh, I don't know, in maybe 2 3 decades ago.
Okay, Chirayu, do you resonate with what Fatima is saying?
Uh, Shreya, mostly yes, but here I would just like to add a few more points. First, on the big picture front, I think the big picture is complicated not because of a personality is there in Iran or not. The big picture is complicated with who is in the White House. And what we have seen that during the Obama year, we got a special exemption for the Chabahar port. During the Trump year, under the maximum pressure strategy, we lost that, and we had to willy-nilly comply with that. And then what we saw was Iran take an extreme pro China tilt. They got this strategic treaty for 25 years. And then, as I have written extensively on this topic, there came a point where even Iran thought that a similar treaty should be offered, if not substantively that strong, but at least, as a political indication that Beijing could be, to some extent, be balanced with New Delhi. And I myself have written that Trump administration, if it comes back, it should encourage and accept that kind of treaty to balance. So apart from in terms of big picture, apart from Iran's nuclear goals or their extreme hostility towards Israel, there are so many other areas where uh, India and Tehran, they look eye to eye, especially on Chabahar port, especially on Afghanistan, practical cooperation on terrorism front, challenges with Pakistan, etc. So I think that the complication in the big picture was happening because of extraneous reason, but I think broadly the course will remain same. And it is true that we actually got the Chabahar port in the last few months, and the work is now, or at least the direction was there that before Trump administration, if it comes back, the work resumes. But what I'm hoping is that with this unfortunate incident, nothing will change, and the broad direction will remain the same.
All right, we'll leave it there. Chirayu Thakkar and Fateme Karim Khan, thank you very much to both of you for joining us on Nation tonight and sharing your thoughts on this big event that has taken place in the Middle East and how it impacts the geopolitics of the world. Thank you very much to both of you. With that, let's now shift our focus